We woke up together in the cramped, musty basement apartment we'd rented right after graduation. It was a rebirth, a second chance, and we both knew it. We walked out the door without a word, a silent, mutual agreement that whatever we had before was over. She left for London to chase her ambitions with her childhood friend. I stayed, grinding away at the same old firm. 7 years later, she was a rising star, a brilliant young designer with a clear path to the top, a perfect life. I was still at the same firm, still grinding. Professor Wallace's 7-year reunion. Sophia Warner was back, and she hadn't just returned. She made a triumphant entrance into our world as a top-tier designer, dripping with fame and fortune. When I walked in, our old classmates were fawning over her. "Sophia, you're basically a legend in the industry now. I knew it back in school. You always had that spark. We'd slave over a project for a week, and you'd nail it in 2 days. I heard you even set up a scholarship at the university in your name. Seriously impressive. If I'd known, I would have hitched my wagon to your star back then. It's not just the talent. Sophia's as gorgeous as ever. And I hear your boyfriend is the real deal, a bona fide catch. So, spill. How did you two get together?" Sophia lowered her head, a demure smile playing on her lips. "It was fate, I guess." Then, inevitably, the conversation turned to me. "So why'd you and Leo Mitchell break up? I remember you two were inseparable. I was your biggest fan." Sophia's brow furrowed, the perfect smile freezing on her face. "We just weren't right for each other." Everyone suddenly found their shoes incredibly interesting, taking the hint. The topic immediately shifted back to her and Julian Vance. What a perfect power couple they made. After brushing the dirt and grime from my clothes as best I could, I straightened my shoulders and walked into the lion's den. The class president spotted me first. "Hey, look who it is. Our own campus heartthrob is gracing us with his presence. Leo, get over here, man. Have a drink. What happened to you? You look like you wrestled a hedge." I laughed it off with some generic excuse. As I turned, my eyes met Sophia's. She gave me a slow, deliberate once-over, then rolled her eyes. The disdain was practically a physical force. Her makeup was flawless, a Dior logo subtly patterned on her dress, making her look like a princess holding court. Standing beside her, Julian Vance, in a bespoke suit that probably cost more than my car, rested a proprietary hand on her shoulder. They looked like they belonged on a magazine cover. And me? I looked like I just crawled out of a dumpster, streaks of mud still stubbornly clinging to my clothes. But I didn't care. I gave her a curt nod, a silent acknowledgement, and turned to chat with some other old friends. "Do you guys remember Serena Hastings?" someone asked. Of course. She was a campus legend. Smart, rich, beautiful, the total package. She was one of Professor Wallace's students too, right? She's supposed to be here tonight. I heard she's done incredibly well for herself. Even sponsored a few of Wallace's research projects. The conversation drifted, a highlight reel of the successful and the celebrated. I pulled out my phone, scrolling idly. Professor Wallace was still a while away, and the feeling of dried mud on my skin was driving me crazy. I made a quick call to have a change of clothes delivered, then headed for the restroom. When I came out, Sophia was pacing in the hallway. I had no interest in a confrontation and turned to walk away, but she called out to me. "After all these years slaving away at that dead-end firm, you couldn't even spring for an Uber to get here. Showing up looking like you took a dive in the mud. It's pathetic." She scanned me from head to toe, every inch of her radiating disappointment. I turned back to face that achingly familiar face and replied, my voice firm, "That's my business. It has nothing to do with you." After so much time, her words were just noise. They couldn't touch me anymore. "Sophia, clench your jaw. Fine. Then you could spend the rest of your life in the mud. You'll always be small-time trash." She spun on her heel, stilettos clicking sharply on the polished floor. Halfway down the hall, she stopped and looked back, a triumphant smirk on her face. "Leo Mitchell, you're just as stubborn as you ever were." She paused, letting the words hang in the air. "But no matter how well you pretend, I know you regret it." Regret. Watching her walk away, I was pulled back into the memories of our first life. In that life, Sophia and I had gotten married young. The beginning was good. We'd come home from work to our little house, cook dinner, watch movies. It was a simple, quiet happiness. But in the end, we were ground down by the relentless reality of bills and responsibilities. Before we were reborn, we had one last, monumental fight. She wanted me to quit my job, to pack up and move to London with her to start over. I refused to give up everything we had here. Sophia flew into a rage, smashing dishes, screaming. She was completely unhinged. I rubbed my temples. If we both moved to London, what about Lily? Lily, our daughter. Sophia was an only child, her parents getting on in years. My own parents were long gone. Her parents didn't want us to leave, to take their only grandchild halfway across the world. And Lily was too young to be uprooted like that. So I stayed, working a local job. The firm wasn't huge, but the benefits were great, and I was on the partner track. It was a hard road, but for Sophia, for my family, what was a little hard work? Her parents treated me like their own son. I cherished my family, cherished everything I had. But happy days never seemed to last. After Sophia visited a friend's design studio in London, she became obsessed with the idea of moving there. She was convinced that if she'd gone abroad right after college, she'd be infinitely more successful. The truth was, our life wasn't bad. We had a house, a car, no mortgage. We had a 7-figure savings account between us. But it wasn't enough for her. Her eyes were red-rimmed as she stared at me, unblinking. Don't you dare try to use our child to trap me here for the rest of my life. My parents are old, but they're healthy. They have pensions. They don't need us. Besides, she pressed on, we can take Lily with us. If Mom and Dad get sick, we can bring them over to live with us. It sounded so simple in her head. Just pack up our daughter and our elderly parents and start over in a foreign country. The reality, navigating new languages, a new culture, new schools, new jobs, would be a nightmare. We'd barely be able to keep our own heads above water, let alone care for everyone else. I tried to reason with her, to calm her down, but she cut me off before I could get a word out. Leo Mitchell, I'm asking you one last time. Is it me, or is it that pathetic job? If you choose that job, we're getting a divorce. Right now, I froze. I couldn't believe she would throw our marriage away for a fantasy of life in London. Sophia, why are you so fixated on starting over? I just didn't understand. A sneer twisted her lips. What do you think you can possibly achieve in this place? Maybe you don't care. Maybe you're happy to just coast. But even if you don't think about yourself, what about Lily? You want her to end up like you? Groveling at someone else's feet for a paycheck her whole life. Rage boiled inside me. Trying to make partner in my firm is coasting? Sophia, you don't have to be in London to find opportunities. If you're good, you can succeed anywhere. The life we have right now is the best security we can give Lily and your parents. Enough, she snapped. If you won't go, I will. I never should have married you. You're a coward. You don't have an ounce of the ambition or courage a man is supposed to have. A total weakling. All you know how to do is potter around the kitchen. What kind of future is that? She was screaming as she threw clothes into a suitcase. I'd heard words like this from her before, but I'd always brushed them off as her being blunt, just speaking her mind without a filter. But thinking back, could the thing someone says every day really be a lie? In her heart, she must have always seen me as a good-for-nothing failure. The thought was a cold knife in my chest. My job was demanding, but I always made time to handle all the housework, help Lily with her homework, and take care of her parents. I did it because I loved her, because I knew her work was stressful, and I just wanted to make her life easier. I never imagined she saw it as weakness, as proof of my failure. She stormed out, dragging the suitcase behind her. I was worried. Her state of mind was so volatile, so I followed her. I don't know what happened up ahead. A swerve, a loss of control. The driver plunged the car straight into the river. I dove in after her without a second thought, but my ankle got tangled in the weeds below the surface. She was trapped in the car, helpless. And then I woke up. We were both reborn. We never spoke of planning a wedding again. She ignored her parents' protests and left for a new life in a foreign country. And just like last time, I stayed at the firm. I made my choice, and I didn't regret it. On my way back to the main ballroom, my wife called. My assistant just told me you fell into a planter trying to save a little kid. Are you okay? Are you hurt? The concern in her voice was a warm blanket. A smile spread across my face. No, I'm fine, Serena. Don't worry. Oh, thank God. I still have a few things to wrap up here, but I'll be there as soon as I can. Okay, take your time. No rush. See you in a bit. I hung up, the smile lingering. It wasn't until the class president called my name, telling me Professor Wallace was running late, that I was pulled back to the present. He grinned, clapping me on the shoulder. Come on, have a drink with the guys. It's been too long. Somehow, someone brought up the old rivalry between me and Julian Vance. We never had any real beef. It was just that I was always number one in our department, and he was always number two. He couldn't stand it. So he made it his mission to one-up me, to take whatever I had. I remember back in the day, Professor Wallace picked Leo for everything. He was the golden boy, the star pupil. Yeah, well, times change. Looks like the best student ended up being the least successful. And what about Sophia? She was Leo's girlfriend all through college, and now she's engaged to Julian. The atmosphere turned instantly awkward. The room was so quiet you could hear people breathing. The class president stepped in to smooth things over. Hey, that's all ancient history. Why bring that up? He said a little too loudly. Let's drink. Everyone drink up. Sophia brought this wine all the way back from Europe. I finally made my way into the private room they'd booked, and Julian was waiting for me. Before I could even protest, he shoved a glass of wine into my hand. Leo, you have to try this. His eyes were fixed on me, searching my face for a reaction. Everyone else was clustered around him and Sophia, gushing about how fantastic the wine was. I took a small sip and set the glass down. It was mediocre at best. Besides, my wife and I were trying for a baby, so I was avoiding alcohol. I planned to just make a token effort, but Julian latched onto me like a leech. He insisted I give my expert opinion on the vintage. Anyone in that room who'd spent 5 minutes in the corporate world knew exactly what he was doing, trying to humiliate me. While I didn't say anything, a few of his cronies, sensing which way the wind was blowing, jumped in. Looks like Leo can't tell a good wine from a bad one. Casting pearls before swine, one of them snickered. No offense, man, just trying to lighten the mood. Professor Wallace is too kind, another one chimed in, inviting every stray cat and dog that ever passed through his classroom. Don't be like that. We all remember how Leo used to suck up to the professor every single day. The veiled insults came one after another. Julian just smiled, his ego swelling with every jab. All right, he said, feigning magnanimity. I just wanted Leo to have a taste, that's all. No big deal. But his eyes were full of challenge. I couldn't be bothered with his petty games or this crowd of sycophants. I walked over to the doorway and checked the messages from my wife. She was asking again if I was okay and said she'd be arriving with Professor Wallace soon. I texted back that I was fine and told her to be safe. Just as I hit send, Sophia appeared. Leo, I always knew you were a coward when it came to leaving the country. I didn't realize that in 7 years you'd become too chicken to even drink a glass of wine. She'd clearly been watching the whole spectacle from the sidelines. Julian and I are getting engaged, she announced, casually brushing a strand of hair from her face. If you had just come to London with me back then, we might have been married with kids by now. But no, you had to be stubborn. And the result of your stubbornness is a life of failure, being looked down on, being laughed at. I cut her off with a flat, perfunctory, congratulations. The color drained from Sophia's face. Congratulations on what? She stammered, her voice laced with disbelief. On your engagement. I wish you both happiness. I said, my tone even. Her eyes blazed with anger, her hands balling into tight fists. I had no idea why she was so mad. She was the one who left so decisively, and from the outside, her life was clearly better than mine. Sophia looked like she was about to explode. She glared at me and spat. You'd better mean that. She tilted her chin up, puffing out her chest like an angry goose. It felt like every interaction we'd had tonight was tinged with her need to feel superior. I was done with her. I lowered my head and walked past her, back into the room. If it wasn't for Professor Wallace, I would have left hours ago. As soon as I stepped past Sophia, I ran right into Julian's pack of loyal followers. I don't know what he promised them, but they trailed him like well-trained puppies. The one in the lead was Vince Russo, who'd been Julian's lackey since college. They blocked my path. Hey, old friend, what's the rush? You don't want to catch up with us after all these years. Come on, let's talk about the good old days. Vince's smile was the kind that made you want to slap it off his face. I don't think we have anything to talk about. We weren't exactly close in college, I said coolly, wanting only to end the conversation. Vince and his crew didn't like that. What's with the attitude? You think this is still school? You think you're still the handsome, straight, golden boy everyone looked up to? He draped a heavy arm over my shoulder. Buddy, open your eyes. It's been almost 10 years since we graduated. Nobody gives a damn about your grades anymore. It's all about status. A mocking sneer spread across his face, and the guys behind him echoed it with their own derisive chuckles. Vince's hand tightened on my jacket. Whoa, a fresh set of clothes. What happened to all those mud stains? Don't tell me you blew your dinner money on a new outfit just to save face. How about this? You crawl between my legs, right here, right now, and I'll pay you back for the clothes. The whole group erupted in laughter. I slapped his hand away. It felt like I'd stumbled into an idiot convention tonight. They were everywhere. Get your filthy hands off me and back off. Stop playing the big man when you're just someone else's dog. They were all just so much damn trouble. I sidestepped them and walked away, refusing to argue with fools. I moved quickly, desperate to escape that toxic environment. I didn't see the venomous look in Vince's eyes as I left. I found an empty side room and hid out for a while, just for some peace and quiet. When I returned to the ballroom, everyone was staring at me strangely. I had no idea why. Then Julian spoke. It's fine. It's just a watch. If it's lost, it's lost. Let's not let it ruin the harmony between classmates. Julian's watch was missing, and the only two people who had been close enough to him were me and Sophia. When I was tasting the wine, Julian's hand had been on my shoulder the whole time. Add that to the earlier awkwardness, and everyone had jumped to the obvious conclusion. I'd stolen his watch out of revenge. You're too nice, Julian. That was a gift from Sophia, wasn't it? If it were me, I'd be tearing this place apart to find it. Exactly. Some people have no shame. Being poor is one thing, but to resort to stealing. Low snickers rippled through the room. My brow furrowed, and I spoke, my voice tight with irritation. If you have something to say it to my face. We're all adults here. Stop with the passive-aggressive bullshit. I was angry, but I was trying not to make a scene. Oh, listen to him, a short guy with glasses piped up. Don't like our insinuations? Maybe you shouldn't have done it in the first place. I walked right up to him, my face grim. He flinched and took 2 steps back. What? You gonna hit me for telling the truth? I scoffed. Hit you? You're not worth the effort. You. He was shaking with rage, his fists clenched, like a cornered animal ready to spring. Someone, seeing things were getting out of hand, stepped in. All right, that's enough. This is a reunion Professor Wallace organized. It's supposed to be a happy occasion. Let's not spoil it. Julian made a show of being gracious. He's right. We were all Professor Wallace's students. There's no need to make things ugly. Let's just drop it. But his expression said the exact opposite. I turned to look at his hypocritical face and couldn't stop a short, bitter laugh from escaping. Drop what? No, we're going to get to the bottom of this. Right now, I want to see who's trying to frame me. I stared directly at Julian, my voice hard and unyielding. You think it was the Hope Diamond the way you're carrying on. Now everyone looks like a thief to you. My words hit their mark. Julian's face darkened. It seems Leo is used to wearing watches in the multi-million-dollar range, he said sarcastically. I had no idea. You're so low-key, Leo. The others joined in the mockery. No one believed that a failure like me, someone who couldn't even afford a clean shirt, would be able to resist the temptation of a watch worth over $500,000. Without a shred of evidence, they had already convicted me. It's not being low-key, it's just an act. Look at the mud on him when he first got here. He was probably in such a hurry that he ran the whole way and tripped. Don't be mean. Maybe Leo is just an avid jogger. The room filled with laughter again. They knew it was cruel. This was a mob mentality, a pack enjoying the thrill of the hunt, using jokes as a cover for their own malice. And their chosen target was me, the social failure, the powerless underdog. Sophia returned from wherever she had been. What's so funny? The laughter died instantly. Her eyes were red and puffy, and her voice trembled slightly. It was obvious she had been crying. Julian immediately went to her side, pulling her into his arms. What's wrong? He asked softly. Sophia melted into his embrace like a docile kitten. Sophia gently shook her head, signaling that she was fine. The onlooking classmates immediately started laying on the flattery again. You two are just perfect together. Sophia asked again what had happened. Julian glanced at me pointedly. The watch you gave me is gone, he said, his voice carrying just enough for everyone to hear. I just had my arm around Leo's shoulder for a moment. There was no one else near me. Sophia pulled away from Julian's embrace and shot me a disdainful look. Then make him pay for it. He's been working for years. Surely he can afford to replace one watch. Just like that, the two of them had passed judgment and declared me guilty. Sophia, how much was that watch anyway? Someone asked. $750,000. A collective gasp went through the room. Wow, that's not cheap. I knew it looked special. Yeah, spending that much on a watch. That's some serious money. The chorus of admiration seemed to inflate Julian's ego. He cleared his throat. Actually, that model is discontinued, so the market value is even higher now, but we're all old classmates. I'd hate for things to get ugly. Sophia stood by, watching coldly. Julian continued his performance of generosity. The money doesn't mean much to us. But for you, he said, looking at me, it's probably more than you'd make in a decade. So here's the deal. You apologize to me, and make it sincere, and we'll call it even. I let out a cold laugh. Just as I was about to fire back, someone shoved me hard from behind. I lost my balance and stumbled forward, crashing right into Julian. We both went down, taking a table of wine bottles with us. Julian's expensive suit was soaked. Sophia rushed over and helped him up. Leo, what do you think you're doing? From the back of the crowd, a voice piped up. He's obviously jealous of Julian. The idea caught fire. Think about it. Leo and Sophia were together. Now she's with Julian and they're living the high life. Of course he's jealous. He sees his ex-girlfriend hitting the big time and regrets everything. Too little, too late. Yeah, I never thought Leo would be that kind of person. A bunch of idiots. I clenched my jaw, trying to control my anger. Someone pushed me. I didn't mean to bump into him. Leo, Julian interrupted, his voice oozing with false sympathy. I know it's hard for you, seeing me and Sophia together. But it's been a long time. It was your choice to. Oh, well, it's all in the past. He made it sound like he was the one suffering some great injustice. Sophia spoke up, her brow furrowed. Leo, what we had is over. There's no chance of us ever getting back together. I fought down my rage and said flatly, you're right. We were over a long time ago, and we will never, ever get back together. See, now he's playing hard to get. No matter what I said, they twisted it, convinced I was lying. I was done wasting my breath on these morons. As I turned to leave, Sophia grabbed my arm. Leo, you still haven't apologized to Julian. I forced myself to remain civil. I was pushed. It wasn't intentional. I'm not apologizing to him. As for the watch, I'll be calling the police to have them investigate. Julian put on his magnanimous act again. Forget it, forget it. It's just a watch. Let him do whatever he wants. The peanut gallery chimed in again, praising him and condemning me. Look at Julian, and then look at Leo. There's just no comparison. That's why he's a successful entrepreneur, and some people are still just low-level employees after all these years. Just then, Serena Hastings and Professor Wallace arrived. What's everyone crowded around here for? It's Serena Hastings. The crowd instantly shifted, flocking to Serena's side, their flattery finding a new, more valuable target. The Hastings family was practically royalty in this city, and Serena had already built her own empire, becoming one of the most respected female CEOs in the global design industry. Everyone wanted a piece of her. Though Sophia had her own company, it was nothing compared to Serena's. She stood to the side, her face a mask of thunder. Just moments ago, she had been the center of the universe. Now, she was an afterthought, and she was furious. Serena was surrounded. I had to squeeze my way through the circle of people to get to her. She took my hand. What happened? Before I could answer, the others launched into their version of the story. When they finished, Serena looked at me, a question in her eyes. You're jealous of them being together? I shook my head vehemently. No, they're lying. Someone pushed me into Julian. Seeing how earnest I was, Serena let out a small laugh. Of course I believe you. By the way, she continued, how much was the wine you spilled in that suit of Julian's? I'll cover it for you. And she took another step closer to me. After all, you know all your money is with me. Seeing us so close, the others started to sense something was off. Sophia's face grew even colder. Julian's smile was strained. Forget it. Let's just forget the whole thing. Talking about money just sours the friendship, he said quickly. I snorted. Money can't sour any friendship between us. The truth is more important than money. Serena nodded in agreement. Then she asked me, did you drink? I gave her an apologetic smile. Just a little. I know you quit. Serena shook her head gently. I'm not scolding you. It's just, drinking cheap wine is bad for you. Cheap wine. That was the phrase that caught everyone's attention. No way. Julian brought this back from a private vineyard in Europe. Yeah, Ms. Hastings, you must be mistaken. My father-in-law is a wine aficionado. Our cellar at home has thousands of bottles, so Serena's been around enough to know the real deal just by the smell. It's not exactly a rare commodity, she said casually. It's not hard to tell the difference. Julian's fake smile finally cracked. His words took on a sharp edge. Ms. Hastings and Leo certainly seem close. Serena simply nodded. Then she pulled out her phone and made a call. Everyone watched, confused. I figure the truth will be out in a few minutes, Serena said calmly. This hotel belongs to my family. The manager is bringing up the security footage now. The way Serena looked at me, full of trust and care, made all the nonsense I'd endured tonight feel insignificant. The other guests started to fidget, likely regretting how quickly they'd sided with Julian. A flicker of panic crossed Julian's eyes. He tried to bluff his way out. Ms. Hastings, I hope you wouldn't fabricate evidence just to protect Leo. Serena's voice was cool and steady. Fabricate evidence? Not likely. But passing off cheap swill as premium wine. Who exactly are you trying to fool? Julian was speechless. Sophia's face was like stone. She hadn't said a word. The truth came out quickly. It was all a pathetic little show, staged by Julian. He'd taken the watch off himself, slipped it into my pocket, and had one of his cronies waiting to push me. Dude, so we wasted all that wine for nothing? One of his friends asked in the video. All for Leo? Not worth it. Julian's smug grin stretched from ear to ear. It's $2, Chuck. You think I'd serve the good stuff to that bunch of morons? What if they could tell it was cheap? Huh, what do they know about fine wine? If I farted in their direction, those idiots would probably compliment the aroma. The accomplice nodded eagerly, praising Julian's genius. After the video ended, Julian's face was a grotesque mask of fury and humiliation. He tried to offer an explanation, but no one was buying it. So this is what they learn abroad: how to be a master manipulator. Honestly, I thought it tasted like rotten grapes, but I figured a guy as rich as Julian wouldn't try to fool us with cheap stuff. You can't judge a book by its cover. Maybe that's how he got so rich, by penny pinching. With every comment, Julian's face grew darker. The atmosphere was thick with tension. Sophia kept her head down, her expression unreadable. Finally, Professor Wallace stepped in to smooth things over, and the incident was put to rest. The party resumed, the masks of civility firmly back in place. "Let's have Serena share some of her secrets to success," Professor Wallace said from his seat at the head of the table, beaming with pride for his star pupil. My own disinterest vanished. My wife was about to speak. As she concluded her remarks, she turned her attention to me. Behind every successful woman is a man who supports her. Everything I have today, I owe to my husband, Leo Mitchell. The statement hung in the air, clarifying everything. A collective shockwave went through the room. Serena Hastings is married, and her husband is Leo Mitchell. Leo kept that quiet. He didn't say a word. Across the table from me, Sophia's expression was bizarre, a twisted mess of emotions. She looked at me with pure hatred, as if I was the one who had cheated on her. Ignoring the fact that Professor Wallace was still speaking, she stood up abruptly and walked out. Julian scrambled to follow her. After the reunion ended, I was surrounded. We knew you were a private person, but this is a whole other level. You and Ms. Hastings make a beautiful couple. Yes, absolutely perfect for each other. Why didn't you invite us to the wedding? After all these years as classmates, we should have been there to celebrate with you. Serena was on the phone, handling some business. I had no desire to talk to them. I offered a few polite, non-committal replies. It was a private ceremony. No guests. Excuse me, I have to go. I have other things to attend to. The message was clear. They reluctantly dispersed. Serena finished her call just then. She looped her arm through mine, her tone playful. Mom said to stop by the mall on the way home and pick up the birthday gift she had custom-made for Dad. Of course, but I have a bit more work to do later. I smiled and gently tapped her on the forehead. All right, I'll go get it. You just focus on work, Mrs. CEO. Serena beamed, but her gaze shifted to something behind me. You know, Ms. Warner has been staring at you this whole time, she murmured, her lips forming a cute, almost imperceptible pout. I found it utterly endearing, but my eyes are only for you. That brought the full, radiant smile back to her face. Give me a hug. I wrapped my arms around her. I love you, I whispered in her ear. I watched until she was safely in her car before turning to leave. But just as I did, Sophia called my name. Her nose and the corners of her eyes were red. You're really married to Serena Hastings? I nodded, not wanting to engage. Suddenly, she started hitting me with her purse over and over. I backed away, disgusted, wanting nothing to do with this unhinged woman. Leo Mitchell, what right do you have to marry another woman behind my back? She shrieked. How could you do this to me? Her words were nonsensical. She was acting as if I had been the unfaithful one. Don't say things like that. We broke up a long time ago, and you're about to have your own family now. No, she screamed, her voice trembling. We're not together. I lied to you. I just wanted to make you jealous. None of it was real. For 7 years, you didn't ask about me once. There was a raw sense of grievance in her voice. I took another step back, putting more distance between us. After we were reborn, you left for London without a single word. She fell silent. I continued. Regardless, we were over a long time ago. Whatever happened in our last life, whatever is happening in this one, it's all settled. We have nothing to do with each other anymore. You've made a name for yourself, and I have my own family. We should never see each other again. Hearing those words, she panicked. Leo, I only left to prove to you that my choice was the right one. I sighed, looking at her with a sense of weary finality. You just wanted to prove that you were doing better than me. If you knew what my situation was today, you wouldn't have even shown up to the reunion. You just wanted to grind me into the dust. Sophia shook her head, denying it. Leo, for the past 7 years, I've thought about you every single day. Thought about me? Thought about how much I must regret it? Hoped I'd come crawling back to you, begging for another chance? She fell silent again. I gave a small, humorless laugh. Sophia, since we broke up, I haven't regretted it for a single moment. Whatever happened in our past life, it's over. What do you mean over? We had a child together in our last life, and you can just say it's over so easily? Sophia grabbed onto my arm, refusing to let go. Leo, where's your conscience? If I didn't have a conscience, I wouldn't have jumped in to save you, and I wouldn't have died because of it. The truth was, right after we were reborn, My heart ached constantly. We'd been together since college. 18 years of marriage after that. I had truly loved her, truly cherished our little family. That's why I dove in without hesitation. But I'd since come to understand. We were fundamentally different people. You can't force a connection that isn't there. We fought about our careers endlessly. Every argument was just another piece of evidence that our values didn't align. We weren't right for each other. Sticking together only meant hurting each other more. The tangled mess of our past life had finally unraveled in this one. Tears streamed down Sophia's face again. Leo, I still don't understand why you wouldn't come to London with me. You were all alone. You only had me and Lily. We were both going to be there. What was the point of you staying here? I shook my head gently. No. At first, I stayed in this city because you were here. Sophia had been sheltered her whole life. Her parents didn't want her to struggle abroad. To be with her, I stayed. Later, it was because I cherished our family. Her parents treated me like a son. They were getting older, and I couldn't bear to leave them. And I didn't want Lily to be dragged around the world at such a young age, with no stable home. Sophia's eyes glazed over, as if lost in memory. Sophia, did you really leave because you wanted a better life for Lily? I don't think so. I think it was about your pride. You saw classmates who came from less than you suddenly become more successful, and you couldn't stand it. We shouldn't see each other again. Take care of yourself. I turned to leave. Sophia darted in front of me, blocking my path. Leo, you're just saying that because you're angry, right? I know you must be furious that I left without a word, but I'm back now. Don't say things you don't mean. Angry words? Things I don't mean? Where's she getting that from? I couldn't have been clearer. Suddenly, she reached out and pulled a cord from under my shirt collar. This is what I gave you when we first got together. It's been over a decade. The cord is so old, but you're still wearing it. I snatched the charm back from her, a bitter laugh escaping me. In our last life, she had given me a good luck charm. I'd given her one too. A few days later, she took hers off, saying it was ugly. I, on the other hand, wore mine for years. But times had changed. This charm wasn't the one she'd given me. This was one Serena had sought out for me from a remote mountain temple. You're mistaken. This was a gift from my wife. I got rid of the one you gave me a long time ago. I don't believe you, she said, her eyes wide. You're just saying that to hurt me. Leo, divorce her. I don't mind that you've been married before. You don't want to go back to London? Fine, I'll stay here for you. I have money now. I can support any decision you make. Let's have another child. Let's bring Lily back to us. She was completely delusional. Talking to her was giving me a headache. I sighed. I am never divorcing Serena. You won't divorce her. I ignored her and strode away. Fine. Don't you regret this? She screamed at my back. After that reunion, I didn't see Julian or Sophia again for a while. But I knew Julian wasn't the type to let things go. After the humiliation I'd dealt him, he would find a way to get back at me. Suddenly, a video went viral online. A social media influencer claimed that after using renovation materials supplied by Mitchell Hastings Design, their house tested for dangerously high levels of formaldehyde and other toxic gases. It set off a firestorm. MH Design is the biggest interior design firm in the city. How could they do something like this? It's completely immoral. Oh my God, I have a designer from MH scheduled for later this year. No way I'm using them now. I rubbed my temples. MH Design was my studio. After I got married, I had folded it into the Hastings Corporation as a subsidiary. Now this toxic house scandal was blowing up on social media, and it was dragging down Hastings Corp stock price with it. On one side, I had a flood of cancellations at MH. On the other, the corporate board was breathing down my neck. I was being pulled in a million directions, and I still didn't know if this was an internal problem or an external attack. Our internal quality control was ironclad. Cutting corners with cheap materials was something that would never happen. But the problems kept piling up. Old clients canceled upcoming projects. Our material suppliers started terminating their contracts, terrified of being associated with the scandal. For a solid week, I was at the office until the dead of night. Honey, stop for a minute. I looked up from spreadsheet to see my wife's voice. She was walking toward me with a thermal flask, a gentle smile on her face. Backlit by the office lights, she looked like an angel. Serena truly was my salvation. Ever since we met, she had been by my side through every crisis. She encouraged me. She believed in me. I wouldn't be where I was today without her. She was also shielding me from a lot of the corporate pressure. The board had given me 2 weeks to solve this crisis, and that was only because Serena had been advocating for me. Otherwise, those old sharks would have sacrificed me by now. Honey, try this. I simmered it for hours today. Serena wrapped her arms around mine, her voice soft and coaxing. A wave of warmth washed over me. I affectionately tapped the tip of her nose. Okay. The sweet corn flavor of the soup filled my mouth, and my mind drifted back to the past. In our first life, I had been framed by a rival company and was facing massive financial penalties. The pressure was immense. I spent my days dealing with investigators and a mountain of work, then came home to do laundry, cook, and help her daughter with homework. I was visibly wasting away. Sophia would just sit on the sofa, watching TV and eating sunflower seeds, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Why couldn't I be lucky enough to marry a handsome, rich husband? Mine's not rich, and now he's getting ugly. And soon he'll probably be saddled with a mountain of debt. Ugh, my life is so miserable. I married a loser. If you actually end up in debt, I'm divorcing you, just so you know. I heard those words every single day. At the time, I just thought she had a sharp tongue, but a soft heart. Looking back now, I realize it was pure, unadulterated contempt. This new crisis was more complicated. The other party had evidence for everything, even copies of our initial price quotes and contracts. This was a meticulously planned conspiracy. The professionally produced expose videos online made it nearly impossible to convince the public it was all a misunderstanding. They even brought in an expert to do a live-streamed air quality test, which of course showed dangerously high levels of toxins. Proving our innocence was becoming a monumental task. Overnight, I found my first gray hairs. Serena gently massaged my temples, her eyes full of concern. "Honey, I don't think that's the apartment we renovated," she said suddenly, a spark of excitement in her voice, as if she'd just made a breakthrough discovery. Huh. I looked at her, confused. "What do you mean? You know how photos and videos can reveal the shooter's location? You can use things like the weather, landmarks. I remember that client's apartment was in Building A, but you can't see that hotel from Building A." Serena pointed to a corner of a hotel visible in the video. She was right. The building's position was wrong. Could it be a different apartment? Did they renovate another unit to look identical, just to frame us? I had considered the possibility, but the live streams all showed the same building name and address. I immediately had my assistant contact a forensic analyst to do a location breakdown. "Serena, you're my guardian angel." I planted a loud kiss on her forehead. The results came back quickly. The video was shot in Building C, not the unit MH Design had renovated. As soon as we released our statement, the other side went silent. When we demanded a new, independent toxin test, they became unreachable. It wasn't until the police got involved that we learned the person who had been all over social media wasn't even the homeowner, but an imposter hired to frame us. The imposter fled, but was eventually caught. He claimed he did it all for the money. But I knew it wasn't that simple. Those perfectly forged MH contracts were too sophisticated. There was a mole in my company. But who was the real mastermind? And what was their goal? I started paying close attention to everyone in the company who had access to those contracts. One evening, I forgot my keys and went back to the office. I noticed the light was still on in the administrative department's break room. Still working this late? Kevin Lee, the head of admin, was a workhorse. He'd been with me since I started the company, had never taken a day off. He was the one person in the company I trusted completely. I walked toward the break room, planning to tell him to go home and get some rest. But I stopped about 3 feet from the door, frozen. The sounds coming from inside, soft moans and gasps, were unmistakable. I didn't have to see it to imagine the scene. I carefully pressed myself against the wall, peering through the crack in the door. And there, I saw a very familiar face. Sophia Warner. What was she doing here? The two of them were lost in each other, a tangle of limbs. I worked with him for years. I recognized Kevin Lee from his back alone. It felt like 1,000 tiny needles piercing my heart. The employee I trusted most was the one who had betrayed me. My fingers moved before my brain caught up. I pulled out my phone and started recording. Sophia was cheating. The thought hit me with stark clarity. Just a few days ago, she was playing the part of the devoted fiancé to Julian at the reunion, then professing her undying love for me in the parking lot. You couldn't believe a single word that came out of that woman's mouth. They went at it for an hour before finally getting dressed to leave. I put my phone away, held my breath, and slipped out before they did. Back in my study, I confirmed it. The man in the video, the build, the haircut, the shape of his ears, it was definitely Kevin Lee. The next day, I walked into the admin office. Kevin was beaming, smiling at his phone. "What's up? New girlfriend? You look like you won the lottery," I said, walking over to his desk. Kevin looked flustered and rubbed his nose. "No, nothing like that. New wallet." I picked it up from his desk. "Whoa, alligator skin. Nice. A gift from the girlfriend?" While he was distracted, I slipped a micro-recorder inside. "No, what girlfriend?" Kevin laughed nervously and snatched the wallet back. He thought he was being smooth, but guilt was radiating off him in waves. I let out a cold, internal laugh. "Come on, man. We've been friends for years. You've been with me since the beginning. You get married, and I'll be writing you a fat check for a wedding gift." My face was all smiles, but inside, I felt nothing. His part of my story was over. Kevin wouldn't meet my eyes. He just nodded repeatedly, his gaze darting around the room. After a few days of listening in, I learned they had a date planned for that evening at a high-end steakhouse. I followed them, my car a discreet distance behind. I put on a face mask and was about to enter the restaurant when a host stopped me. "I'm sorry, sir. This restaurant is for VIP members only." "I'm with the gentleman who just went in," I said, watching Kevin disappear into an elevator. "That gentleman is here for a private dinner date with his girlfriend, sir." The host blocked my path, his expression unyielding. "So how do I become a VIP member?" They didn't meet often. I couldn't miss this chance. The initial deposit is $50,000. Members can then make reservations in advance. If money could solve it, it wasn't a problem. "Card." The host took my black card. "You're in luck, sir. We have one private dining room left for tonight. Would you like to book it?" he asked, his smile suddenly much warmer. I nodded and walked inside. The restaurant was opulent, with dim, atmospheric lighting, perfect for an illicit rendezvous. There were only 8 rooms, each with a small, private lounge attached. It was a cheater's paradise. While the waiter was bringing my food, I slipped into their room and snapped a few pictures. I sent them anonymously to Julian's number, then went back to my room to wait. I wondered how Julian would react. The woman he'd worked so hard to win over was cheating on him with someone else. But the furious explosion I expected never came. He didn't even reply. But the photos were clear as day. It was definitely Sophia. Did he not care that his fiancée was cheating on him? A wild thought crossed my mind. What if Julian had orchestrated this whole affair between Sophia and Kevin? What if it was all just a ploy to take down my company? After all, if Julian wanted to expand his business into the domestic market, MH Design would be his biggest competitor. Julian had never played by the rules. He was ruthless. It seemed my plan to use Julian's rage against him wasn't going to work. The next day, Kevin came to my office to drop off the monthly admin reports. He placed them on my desk and practically ran out of the room. I watched him go, lost in thought. Kevin was a decent guy. We'd known each other for years. There was history there. The fact that he looked so guilty when he saw me. I decided to take a gamble. "Kevin," I said, pushing open the door to his office. "We haven't had dinner in a while. Let's grab a bite tonight." He jumped, startled by my sudden appearance, and mumbled in agreement. At the restaurant, I slid the photos across the table toward him. "Kevin, I suspected everyone but you." My voice was cold, distant. I watched his face, not wanting to miss a single flicker of emotion. He panicked. It was plain as day. His knuckles turned white as he gripped his water glass. I, he stammered, unable to form a coherent sentence. I pressed on. Why betray me? Have I not treated you well?" "No, Leo, you've been great to me." He jumped to his feet, agitated. "When I first graduated, I was broke. Then my dad got really sick, and I couldn't come up with the money for his surgery. I was desperate. You sold your car to help me out. You saved my dad's life. You're the reason my family is still together." His voice got smaller and smaller. "You've always been good to me. Then why?" I pushed, relentless. I was an idiot. I let myself get played." Kevin bowed deeply. "Leo, do whatever you have to do. I was wrong." He kept his head down. I sighed. "Who's behind this?" He didn't answer. The poor fool probably still thought he was being some kind of noble protector. "Did you give him the contracts?" He shook his head, then quickly nodded. Watching him, I saw a reflection of my old self, the one who had also been blinded by Sophia. Sophia Warner and I were classmates in college. His head snapped up, his eyes wide with shock. "We dated in college. We broke up because she thought I was poor. She went to London and got together with Julian Vance. They got engaged a little while ago." I slid a photo of their engagement announcement in front of him. Kevin's eyes welled with tears. His family had never had much money. He'd worked multiple jobs all through college, and after graduating, he'd practically lived at the office, chasing overtime pay and travel bonuses. It was only in the last couple of years that he'd become financially stable enough to even think about dating and marriage. Sophia was probably his first real girlfriend. I clapped him on the shoulder, trying to offer some comfort. It was clear he had no idea who was really pulling the strings. "Leo, just fire me," he said, his voice choked with sobs. "I messed up. I failed to protect the company's files, and I caused all this damage. I'm no saint. I couldn't just let this go. Just resign. Let's end this with some dignity." After Kevin left, I got a text from an unknown number. "You got rid of Kevin? What? Are you jealous seeing me with another man?" "I knew it. You're so predictable. Beg me, and I'll come back." It was obviously Sophia. I didn't bother replying. Block, delete, done. I was still struggling to find a way to get back at Julian. A few quiet days passed, and then we ran into each other at a gala. He was in a perfectly tailored designer suit, a glass of red wine in hand, effortlessly charming the business titans in the room. I walked in with Serena on my arm, and every head in the room turned. This gala was, after all, essentially a networking event hosted by the Hastings Corporation. As people swarmed around us, I saw Julian across the room, his eyes fixed on us with a venomous glare. I tightened my arm around Serena's shoulder, pulling her closer, and met his gaze without flinching. Everyone in that room was a shark. They could all feel the tension between us. Well, a toast to you both. Serena, Leo. Julian approached, forcing the words through gritted teeth. He could barely contain his resentment. Just as he reached us, someone behind him stumbled, bumping into him hard. Julian lost his footing and fell against the corner of a table. The wine in his hand sloshed out, splashing all over my suit. Oh my, a grown man tripping over his own feet. What's the matter, Julian? Losing your touch? The air filled with sarcastic remarks. I've never liked that kind of behavior, kicking a man when he's down. Their words did nothing to smooth the frown on my face. Julian's face cycled through shades of red and white, his fists clenched so tight his knuckles were pale. The crowd's attention shifted back to me. Leo, are you all right? That suit must have cost a fortune. Julian should pay for it. Haha, for someone of Leo's stature, a custom suit like that must be in the six figures. I wonder if Julian's company even clears that much in a year. I let out a barely audible sigh. This whole scene was suffocating. It's fine. No need to pay for anything. Forget it. I dab at the stain on my suit. Leo is so magnanimous. A true leader. The compliments started flowing again, one after another. Serena squeezed my hand. Let's go get you changed, then. Her smile was poised and graceful, my perfect escape from the piranha tank. We walked away arm in arm, a picture of bliss. Neither of us had to look back to feel the heat of Julian's murderous glare. Later that night, the sharp ring of my phone shattered a peaceful dream. Serena. Leo. It's an emergency. The warehouse is on fire. It was Lynn, my assistant, her voice frantic. The Hastings warehouse was currently storing a batch of high-precision equipment. If it was destroyed, the losses would be catastrophic. We threw on clothes and raced to the scene. By the time we arrived, the fire was under control. The equipment wasn't completely destroyed, but it was unusable. The security guard on duty had been taken in for questioning. The security camera outside the warehouse had captured a man in black. He was dressed head to toe in black, with a hat and a mask, making his face impossible to see. But from the way he walked, I already knew who it was. The police arrested the arsonist quickly. He confessed to everything, including the toxic house setup. The case was closed, but a question still lingered in my mind. Julian and I had no real history of animosity. Why was he so obsessed with destroying me? If it was about Sophia, it didn't make any sense. If you truly love someone, would you really use them as a pawn, asking them to sacrifice their own body to achieve your goals? The next time I saw Julian, he was a changed man. The dashing, confident figure was gone. He was swimming in a loose-fitting prison jumpsuit, a dark stubble covering his jaw and dark circles under his eyes that seemed to sag to his cheekbones. When he saw me, the old mocking smile returned to his lips. I can't believe a bastard like you could get so lucky, marrying the heiress to the Hastings Corporation. How does it feel living off your wife? His eyes were bloodshot, like a caged animal that had been provoked for too long. Serena and I are married because we are equals. Our values align, I said calmly. Ha 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 ha. He threw his head back and laughed, then slammed his palm against the glass partition. Bullshit. You're such a hypocrite. He was a madman. Why are you always coming after me? I finally asked the question that had been tormenting me. Because you're an arrogant prick. I wanted to crush you, to make you taste what it feels like to be nothing. He roared, his voice filled with raw hatred. I was baffled. The only time our paths had crossed was in college, and we barely ever spoke. I knew who you were before the first day of classes. The genius designer. Famous already. I came up to you to say hi. And what did you do? You didn't even look at me. You just sat there with your stupid hat on, sketching. The great genius. Too important to say hello. He was still furious just thinking about it. My parents were always busy. They were ghosts. The only time I ever saw them was during the day on my school holidays, if they happened to stop by the house to grab some files. We'd have these brief moments together, so short I could barely get 3 sentences out. His gaze unfocused, lost in memory. I remember those days of being ignored. It hurt. It was a pain that no amount of money could fix. So I hate anyone who ignores me. I work my ass off to shine, to put myself on a pedestal. But you, Leo Mitchell, not only did you ignore me, you stole my spotlight. You blocked my path. Every time I looked up, you were there, above me. And I hated it, he screamed, his eyes bulging. So I swore I would crush you, that I would take everything that was yours. And look, I took your precious Sophia, didn't I? You should hear the things she screams in bed. She told me. I showed her things she'd never experienced before. What's the matter, Leo? Can't get it up? He laughed, a lewd, triumphant sound. He was insane. He had built me up into his nemesis, hating me for years for a slight that never happened. With his resources, he could have had a brilliant life, but he had trapped himself in a cage of his own resentment, blinded by jealousy, and this was the result. I spoke slowly. You're a truly terrible person. And for the record, Sophia and I never slept together. When I loved her, my instinct was to protect her, not possess her. Julian looked as if the world had just collapsed around him. He thought he had won a great victory, but the battle had only ever existed in his own mind. I like to listen to music when I draw, with noise-canceling headphones. I can't focus when it's loud. The first day of school, my hat was covering my headphones. I never even heard you call my name. I turned and walked away. Behind me, I heard the dull thud of him hitting the glass. He was quickly restrained by the guards. He was facing not only prison time, but also crippling financial restitution. All his assets had been seized. He had nothing left, not even the hate that had fueled him for so long, which turned out to be a fiction. After the visit, a great weight lifted from my shoulders. The senseless persecution finally had an answer. A few days after he was incarcerated, news came that Julian had committed suicide. He had tried swallowing objects, ramming his head into the wall, but had been stopped. In the end, he provoked another inmate and was beaten to death. The day the news of his death broke, Sophia appeared before me. Leo, you won. You and Julian went head-to-head, and you came out on top. Now you can be with me. Sophia's eyes were shining, her body radiating an almost manic obsession. My brow furrowed in annoyance. What are you talking about? I told you, there's no chance for us. I didn't want to talk to her. I turned and walked away quickly. She scrambled after me, wrapping her arms tightly around my waist, her head resting against my back. The physical contact made my skin crawl. I pried her arms off me and took a large step forward, creating distance between us. If you have something to say, say it. Don't touch me, I said, my voice sharp. Why not? We're husband and wife. We've done everything together, and now you're telling me not to touch you. Sophia's eyes immediately filled with tears, her nose turning red. She looked pitiful, but I felt nothing. I just wanted to end this toxic connection once and for all. That was in another lifetime. Don't bring it up again. I started to walk away. Sophia grabbed my arm. Leo, are you mad at me? She asked, her voice small and careful. I closed my eyes, a wave of frustration washing over me. But she seemed to misinterpret my silence. I'll apologize to you, okay? She actually knelt on the ground, tears streaming down her face. I know, you must think I'm tainted because I was with Kevin. But you're divorced too, so neither of us has room to judge. Besides, it's partially your fault. If you had just divorced her sooner, none of this would have happened, she mumbled. Only Sophia Warner could turn a kneeling apology into a self-righteous accusation, shifting the blame onto someone else. I've told you before, there is nothing between us anymore. Who you're with is your business, I said, my patience worn thin. When she saw that her tears weren't working, she changed tactics. Then give me back all of Julian's assets. She got up from the ground, her demand shockingly entitled. So, that was her real goal. Impossible. The damage Julian caused to the Hastings Corporation is incalculable. Those assets are barely enough to cover the losses. When it came to business, my tone became firm, unyielding. Sophia seemed stunned, as if she'd never considered I would refuse. When she recovered, she transformed into a screeching harpy. I don't care. You have to give them to me today, she started yelling, all composure gone. That's my money. You're a thief. You're trying to steal my private property. Her voice grew shriller with each word. I'd had enough. I called security and had them escort her out. As they dragged her away, she was still screaming threats, promising I would die a horrible death. At first, I didn't take it seriously. She always had to have the last word. But then things started to happen. It began when my brake lines were cut. A wine-filled thermos that wasn't mine appeared in my car. It was a constant, unnerving reminder that my life was in danger. I reported it to the police, but all they could do was tell me to be careful. I was on high alert, constantly watching over myself and Serena. Nothing seemed to be happening on her end, and the incidents involving me gradually decreased. Until one night, when a group of men ambushed me in the parking garage. I had worked late and was exhausted. Before I could even process what was happening, they swarmed me. They were dressed in black, wielding baseball bats, and they came at me with brutal intent. The first blow landed without a word. I was outnumbered. All I could do was curl up and protect my head. The bats landed again and again, solid, sickening thuds against my back and stomach. A sharp, searing pain shot through me, and I tasted blood and saliva in my mouth. "All right, that's enough. Don't kill him. That'll cause more trouble," the leader ordered. The beating stopped. That voice. It was so familiar. Vince Russo. That son of a bitch. I don't know what kind of poison Julian and Sophia had fed him, but he was still doing their dirty work. Tooey. Vince spat on my face. Pathetic. He swung his bat again, this time at my car, smashing the windows one by one. When that wasn't enough, he pulled out a key and started carving deep scratches into the paint. Bastard. Scumbag. The insults were a dull roar in my head. A surge of fury cut through the pain. Vince Russo, do you have any idea what you're doing? Can you afford to pay for the damage to this car? Vince stared at me, his eyes wide. Are you kidding me? You're still trying to act tough. You're the one who should be thinking about the consequences. Who the hell do you think you are? Just some gigolo living off his wife. I'll beat the shit out of you right now, he roared, charging at me again. The insults and blows rained down on me simultaneously. The others didn't try to stop him. They just laughed, a cruel, mocking sound. Soon, they joined in, trashing my car. When the assault was finally over, I was a wreck. I forced myself to speak through the pain, squeezing the words out between clenched teeth. I hope you're all prepared to take responsibility for what you've done tonight. Julian's obsession, at least, had a twisted logic. Vince's violence was just pure evil. He enjoyed bullying people, enjoyed seeing their helplessness. It gave him a thrill. I didn't know what deal he'd made with Sophia, but I had suspected she might turn to him for help. That's why I had been preparing. What's this? Vince reached for my neck, where the charm Serena had gotten for me hung. Don't touch it, I snarled. But the more I cared, the more he wanted to provoke me. He ripped the charm from my neck and dangled it in his hand. You actually believe in this crap? I say, toss it. No point in living a long life, anyway. He threw it hard against the far wall. I swallowed my rage. The only way to get him to stop was to appear unfazed. He kept spewing filth, trying to get a rise out of me. I refused to give him the satisfaction. I closed my eyes, feigning calm. His chest heaved with frustration. He grabbed me by the throat. Tell me, what's your wife like in bed? How about we pass her around? Let the boys have a taste. A vile smirk spread across his face. I lost control. My eyes turned bloodshot as I glared at him. Vince saw my reaction and was delighted. He was so arrogant because he had a powerful father who always bailed him out. Even if he ended up at the police station, he'd be out in no time. Are her tits soft? That. Vince was just getting started when the wail of a police siren echoed through the garage. Ha 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 ha. Is that all you've got? Do you have any idea who I am? Vince's face was a mask of contempt. I know exactly who you are, and I'll make you all pay, I said, my voice weak, but my words unshakable. Yeah? Let's see how you do that. Vince swaggered into the police car like he was getting into his own ride home. What Vince Russo didn't know was that I had already compiled a thick file on his father's corruption and sent it to the DA's office. His father was likely being arrested at the same time. His free pass to terrorize the world was gone. In this incident, Sophia was at most guilty of inciting the attack. But Vince never gave her up. Later, I heard from a class president that Sophia had left the country again. Finally, she was gone. The constant harassment had been draining me. On my birthday, Serena woke me up early. Honey, get dressed. I'm taking you out. She was a ball of energy, peppering my face with kisses like a playful kitten. I looked at her, my heart full. It's so early. Don't you want to sleep in? My voice was still rough with sleep. It was only 6 in the morning. This was not typical Serena behavior. She just smiled. It's a beautiful day. Too nice to waste on sleep. She took me to a rooftop garden restaurant. She had planned a surprise party for me. From the moment I walked in, the day was filled with one delightful surprise after another. Looking at Serena's smiling face, I felt like the luckiest man alive. Lucky to have such a wonderful wife. She was there when I needed comfort, there when I needed support. She was even the one who confessed her feelings first. I had asked her once why she chose me, why she was so good to me. Because you're worth it, she had said, her voice firm. She told me she had known me long before we officially met. She'd seen me on the street helping an old woman sell apples from her cart. Out of all the professors, why do you think I chose to study under Professor Wallace? She'd asked. Because I wanted to be in the same department as you. Because you were there. But then you got together with Sophia. So I just watched from a distance and wish you well. Thankfully, fate was on my side. I finally got to be with you. Meeting her in this life was my own stroke of fate. We spent a beautiful evening together. The next day, Sophia was waiting outside my office. Her face was pale, with dark, bruised-looking circles under her eyes. She looked exhausted. When she saw me, she immediately stood up and hurried toward me. "You're back," she chirped, her voice full of unconcealed joy. "I thought you left the country. What are you doing here?" My tone was cold. I wanted nothing to do with her. Hearing my question, Sophia's face lit up. She must have mistaken my annoyance for concern. Her happiness was palpable. I sighed in frustration. "Leo, yesterday was your birthday. I waited here for you all day. This is your gift." She pulled an elegant box from her bag. It was a watch, identical to the one Julian had owned. I barely glanced at it. "I'm sorry, but my wife would misunderstand. I don't want to make my wife unhappy." "Leo." Her voice turned sharp, her eyes red as she glared at me. Then, just as quickly, her tone softened. "I sold all my assets abroad. From now on, I'm staying here. I'm not going anywhere. I'll be with you. Leo, please don't be so cold to me. It hurts. I know I've done a lot of wrong things. I'm sorry. Please forgive me." She started repeating it over and over, that she was sorry, that she was wrong, begging for my forgiveness. Her humility was unprecedented. But all I felt was a throbbing headache. It was all over. My displeasure was written all over my face. "Sophia, I made myself perfectly clear last time. We are finished. Whether you can accept it or not, there is no future for us." "Honey," Serena walked up, holding a small, gift-wrapped box. "A little something for you today. I hope you have a wonderful day." Ever since we'd gotten together, she prepared a small gift for me every single day. I took the box and gently kissed her forehead. Sophia stared at us, her expression one of utter disbelief. She wiped away a tear. "Hello," Serena said politely. "Hello," Sophia managed to stammer back. Then she turned and ran. "Am I that scary?" Serena murmured under her breath. I chuckled. "Of course not. So, what were you two talking about?" I could have sworn I heard her say something about being together. Her jealous pout was adorable. I gently pinched her nose. "And did you also hear your husband say, in a very loud and clear voice, 'Impossible'?" After that encounter, Sophia disappeared for a long time. But she would still text me, either reminiscing about the past or begging for forgiveness. I would block the number, and she would just get a new one and start again. It was relentless. Then she started telling me she was sick, asking me to visit her. I'm not a doctor. I changed my phone number, and finally, there was peace. Then we ran into each other at the hospital. "Leo, are you here to see me?" Sophia ran toward me. She was in a patient gown, so thin she looked like a skeleton. She looked terrible, but what did that have to do with me? "No, I'm here with my wife for her checkup." The light in Sophia's eyes died. She opened her mouth to say something else, but her words were rambling, disjointed. Maybe it was the illness. She started talking about us being together again. I cut her off. "Sophia, do you realize you're not making any sense?" Just then, Serena came walking over. I rushed to her side. "Honey, slow down. What's the hurry? Look at you all worried. I'm only 2 months along. Still, we should be careful. I don't want you to be uncomfortable." We walked toward the hospital exit, talking and laughing. "Honey, let's find another hospital for the next checkup. Otherwise, we'll keep running into old acquaintances." "Okay." I fondly tapped the tip of her nose. "That pout is so big I could hang a teapot on it." She was jealous, but in that moment, I felt a profound sense of happiness. Suddenly, Sophia screamed my name from behind us. Her voice was thick with tears. "Leo, what do I have to do to make you come back to me?" I didn't stop walking, because I was never going back to her. The past was the past. I had to cherish the life I had now. I worried that in her current state, Sophia might do something extreme. So I insisted that Serena never leave my side. But Serena can't sit still. While I was in a 2-hour meeting, she snuck out to go shopping. Of course, she ran right into Sophia. "Serena Hastings, I'm going to send you to hell." Sophia's face was a ghostly white, her eyes sunken, her hair a tangled mess. She was holding a syringe with a bloody needle, and she was lunging toward Serena. "I paid a fortune for this. It's HIV-positive blood. I'm going to send you and your baby to hell." Sophia charged straight at her. "Why? Why do you get to have Leo's baby? What about me? What am I?" she shrieked, saliva flying from her mouth. "You've all wronged me." Serena turned and ran, with Sophia hot on her heels. There was nowhere to hide. Being pregnant, Serena quickly started to lose ground. Sweat poured down her face as she risked a glance back. Sophia was closing in. When I arrived, Serena had her eyes squeezed shut, a look of pure despair on her face. Sophia was holding the syringe high, her eyes bloodshot, a twisted grin on her face, screaming, "Die." I didn't think. I kicked Sophia, sending her sprawling to the ground. Then I pulled Serena up and shielded her behind me. "I'll kill you both." Sophia scrambled to her feet and lunged at us again, her eyes filled with hate. Thankfully, in the scuffle, she dropped the syringe. I shielded Serena while fending off Sophia's attacks. She was clawing, kicking, biting, a wild animal. The police arrived just in time and subdued her. As they put her in the car, she was still glaring at us, muttering that we would die horrible deaths. She was completely transformed from the elegant, sophisticated woman who had returned from abroad. Now, with her hollow cheeks and wild hair, she looked like a vagrant. "Leo," Serena whispered, her eyes full of tears as she looked at the scratches on my arms. I patted her arm reassuringly. "It's nothing. I'm never going out alone again," Serena mumbled, her head bowed in self-recrimination. I gently touched my forehead to hers. "It's okay, baby. You can go out by yourself now. The bad person has been taken away. They're bad. My wife is good." In prison, Sophia kept demanding to see me. I was going to ignore her. "You should go," Serena said, resting her head on my shoulder. "Use this chance to say everything that needs to be said. Let her finally understand." I thought about it and realized she was right. When I saw Sophia again, she was even thinner, a gaunt figure with no life in her eyes. She looked like a walking corpse. She sat down across from me, separated by the glass partition, her gaze unfocused, looking somewhere past my shoulder. "Leo, you broke all your promises to me," she said, her voice a faint whisper, as if it took all her strength just to speak. "My promises to you were from another lifetime. When I proposed, I swore I would be good to you, that I would never let domestic chores stand in the way of your freedom. And I kept that promise." My voice was flat. Those days felt so distant now. In this life, we never got married. We barely even had a proper breakup. As for why, I don't think I need to remind you. My brow furrowed. I just wanted to sever this final, toxic tie. Sophia's lips moved, but no sound came out. "Don't bother my family again." I turned and left without looking back. I never heard anything about Sophia Warner again. She was finally completely out of my life. Serena gave birth to a healthy, beautiful daughter. Our life as a family of 3 was perfect. One year, on our anniversary, Serena and I were sipping wine and talking about the past. My childhood was rough. My parents died when I was young, and I grew up in an orphanage. Talking about it always brought a wave of sadness. Just then, my phone rang, breaking the somber mood. "Mr. Mitchell, a student from the orphanage you sponsor, sent a thank you letter. Would you like to see it?" We went to my office together. Serena sat while I stood behind her chair. The letter was from a 15-year-old boy who had just gotten into the top high school in the city with the highest exam scores in his county. The letter was 4 pages long, written in neat, careful script, filled with gratitude. As I read it, a warmth spread through my chest. I saw a reflection of myself, more than a decade ago. Life had been hard, but there were always kind people who helped me along the way. I was where I was today because of them. "Let's go visit the orphanage," I said, my voice thick with emotion. I rested my forehead against Serena's. "Of course. I'd love to see where you grew up," she said, putting down the letter and wrapping her arms around my waist. The orphanage was over 600 miles away. We loaded up the car with gifts and toys and drove for a full day. "Annie, Serena, have some water." The boy who wrote the letter brought us 2 glasses of warm water. He was polite and thoughtful, like most of the children there. I took the glass and ruffled his hair. "Go on, go play." The boy ran off shyly. "See that little hill?" I took Serena's hand, pointing. "It's covered in persimmon trees. In the fall, they're full of these big, sweet, orange fruits." I showed her every corner of the place, every spot that held a memory of my childhood. Serena was full of excitement, asking questions about everything like a curious child. "Then we have to come back for every season. I want to see this place in spring, summer, fall, and winter." I pulled her into my arms and smiled. "Deal. Mommy, is that Uncle Kevin? Why is Uncle Kevin's picture here?" "Who's that lady?" my daughter, Chloe, asked, pointing at the invitation on the table. "That's called a wedding invitation, sweetie. Uncle Kevin is getting married to that lady." Serena snatched the invitation away just before Chloe could tear it. Kevin Lee had been deceived, too. Even though he left MH Design, we remained friends. And now he was getting married. "Mommy." Chloe's little brow furrowed, and she let out a shriek to express her displeasure at having the invitation taken away. Her tiny features scrunched up, her eyes full of fire. "Little ones can't play with Uncle's invitation," I said, gently pinching her chubby cheek and lifting her onto my lap. "Daddy, look at her. Can't you do something about your wife?" Chloe pouted, tattling on her mom. My daughter was only 3 years old, soft and doughy like a little steam bun. "You can't raise your voice at Mommy," I said, pinching her cheek again and putting on a stern face. We named her Chloe, a derivative of Xiaobao, my little treasure. She was the light of our lives. We had no grand expectations for her. We just wanted her to grow up happy. If you want something, you have to ask Mommy nicely. And no destroying things, I said, lifting her up and down until she giggled. Okay, okay. Chloe's soft lips planted a kiss on my cheek. She was always such a cuddly, affectionate child. The little schemer then turned and gave Serena a loud, smacking kiss as well. All right, whatever our Chloe wants to play with, she can play with. Mommy will take you to the supermarket later to buy some treats, Serena said, handing the invitation back to our daughter and kissing her gently. For many years now, our life has been just like this, simple, warm, and peaceful. May our family always be this happy.